Welcome to the Legacy Tree podcast. We're the team at Legacy Tree Genealogists, and this is where we talk about the real side of family history. The surprises, the roadblocks, the emotions, and the stories that don't always fit neatly into a pedigree chart. From DNA discoveries to archival finds, cultural history to personal moments, we have honest conversations about what genealogy actually looks like and why it matters. Because when it comes to preserving what matters most, you deserve to put your family history in our hands. Today we have Adrienne, an advanced researcher with Legacy Tree Genealogists. In her work, she specializes in using genetic genealogy for uncovering and exploring African American lineages. In this episode, we discuss Juneteenth observances and the profound journey of reclaiming family history. We'll be diving into the groundbreaking world of genetic ancestry testing and exploring DNA lineages. To guide us through this, we are incredibly honored to welcome Dr. Gina Paige. In 2003, Dr. Paige co-founded African Ancestry, Inc., pioneering a brand new way to trace African lineages, using genetics and creating a vital space for people of African descent looking to reliably trace their roots.
Hi. So, how do you personally observe Juneteenth, Dr. Paige?
My observation of Juneteenth really depends on where I am in the world. And so I do a lot of speaking around the country, and Juneteenth is a popular time. So usually I'm observing it with a group of people and we're talking about African ancestry. But when that is not the case, I like to attend community celebrations here in Washington, D.C., which is where I'm from.
Nice. Now, did you grow up observing Juneteenth at all, or doing anything like from your childhood and onward? I know this experience is, for me, I did not. So I feel like we're all at different places for this in terms of the African American community, like who celebrated it, like just coming up, or who's like learning about it later in life. And I feel like because of where we're from regionally, I think that has an impact on it. So what about yourself? Did your family do anything for
No, I
Juneteenth?
would agree with you. No, we didn't. I didn't know about Juneteenth growing up. So, and in DC, there weren't, to my recollection, there were not Juneteenth celebrations. I think the the national observance, and by national, I guess I mean many communities outside of Texas
Mhm.
celebrating Juneteenth is a fairly recent event, although um, that's not based on a recent knowledge of Juneteenth, because there are people who've been pushing for Juneteenth, but just I think the the action, taking action to commemorate it is fairly new.
Yes, I agree with that. And like I said, myself included, I grew up as a military child. So I moved around and lived in 9 different states before the age of 18 across the United States. And I just, and even though my parents were from the South, my father was from Mississippi and my mom, although born in California, her parents are from Mississippi. They didn't, this is a new thing for them as well. So, yeah, but I'll be doing the same. I do speaking engagements as well sometimes, and also do things with the community. So I like that on the national level. We have this opportunity now to commemorate, observe, learn, reflect, just, see it fit however we want to incorporate Juneteenth into our lives nationally. So that's cool. What about African ancestry? Like as a company, how does the company commemorate Juneteenth?
Well, we post about it. It, like I said, sometimes we're out in the community, so we may be doing reveals at different celebrations. Um, and then we also generally have a promotion, a Juneteenth promotion. So, yeah.
Nice. Um, yeah, so and that being said, like I want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the your test and the company, and you've been around for 23 years now, so that's awesome. But I guess, and we said this in your bio, you mentioned one of your most exciting reveals and highlights in the company, but what else, like what other discoveries, like in the 23 years you've been around, like what do you still enjoy the most about African ancestry and the work that you do?
The thing I enjoy most about African ancestry and my personal African ancestry experience is meeting people.
Hmm.
To me, that makes it worthwhile and meaningful. As a business owner, you can, I spend most of every day in the weeds, putting out fires, trying to come up with ways to engage people, that type of thing, looking at numbers, analysis. And that,
Hmm.
I mean, whatever floats your boat, I'm an analytical person, so sometimes that's fun, but it's much more meaningful when I'm out and can meet people who've taken the test or can usher someone in participating in their personal African ancestry experience. That's what makes it fun for me.
Okay, okay. And for those who aren't as familiar, can you we'll backtrack a little bit, but talk a little bit about the test, like the Matric Clan and the Patrick Clan test, and the who can take them, and what someone might expect from taking them. Because I think sometimes with these things, our expectations can be in different places depending on where we've gotten information about the company or the test, or someone else's results. You're excited about what they found, and that might not apply to you. So, yeah, can you walk us through a little bit of that?
Sure. That's a lot, but yes, I can. So,
Sorry.
African ancestry is the pioneer of genetic ancestry tracing for Black people around the world, and we are unlike any other company in the industry. And so, because of that, we are often held to the expectations that people have from other companies
Mm,
where you go to any other company in the industry and they're going to tell you they're going to look at your overall genetic makeup. Let's say my scientists hate when I say this, but your entire genetic family tree. It's not
hmm.
entire, but I'm not a scientist, so I'm gonna say entire. You're looking across, thousands of your genetic lineages and then breaking those down into percentages, telling you you're some percentage from this part of the world, that part of the world, or the other. And that's pretty much it. When the result is African, they then say of your 80% Africanness, some percentages from this part of Africa, that part of Africa, or the other. And they do that work based on comparing your DNA to at most 6,000 African samples. They have, almost 80,000 samples from the rest of the world and 6,000 from Africa. And that's the basis of the information they give you. So if you have never heard of African ancestry and you've taken another company's test, you think, "Oh, I'm 40% Nigerian. I'm 20% Cameroon/Congo/Bantu, these kind of manufactured regions. African ancestry is totally different. African ancestry looks at one branch of your family tree, quite like genealogy. Genealogists do. Genealogists don't go looking for everybody in the family tree. My understanding is that you focus on one line, work that back, maybe as far as you can get, or till you find what you're looking for, and then you go off to another line. With us,
Hmm.
it's the same way. You decide if you want to trace a maternal lineage of the family or a paternal lineage of the family. We then look at specific DNA to those lineages. With a maternal lineage, you would take a matriclan test, and we would look at your mitochondrial DNA. With a paternal lineage, which is father to father to father to father, you would take someone who was assigned male or intersex at birth would take a paternal test, a patriclan test, and we would look at the Y chromosome. So we're not trying to tell you all of your ancestries. What we're doing is we're going to take that DNA, compare it to over 33,000 African samples, not 6,000, but 33,000, and
Hmm.
then look for the match to tell you if it's African, the present day African country, so not a whole region, and the present day ethnic group in that country that you share ancestry with. So, someone who finds out that they're 20% Angolan in their family somewhere may take a matriclan test from African ancestry and find out that they share maternal genetic ancestry with the Mbundu people living in Angola today. That's
Okay.
the difference. Anybody can take a matriclan test. We all inherit mitochondrial DNA from our mothers and grandmothers, excuse me, and great grandmothers,
Mhm.
and so on, going back for generations. But like I said, you have to have a Y chromosome to take a paternal test. And so people come to African ancestry wanting to know where in Africa they come from. And they
Hmm.
come, as you alluded to, with all different types of motivations, perspectives. You may have traveled to Africa, and the first place you went to, you saw 15 people who looked like your mother, your aunt, your cousin, whoever. They said, "You are from here." So you want to know, am I from there? Or you want to travel to Africa and you want to go your home country to be the first place you travel. Or you've done 20 years of genealogy research and you can't get past the plantation and you want to know where that ancestor was prior to being enslaved. These are the types of questions we can answer. But you may not like the answer. So you may not want to be from Gabon. You may have
Yeah.
all of your life thought or had an affinity towards or a love for the Yoruba culture from
Yeah.
from the Yoruba in Nigeria, and then I tell you that you're a Teke from Gabon, you might not like that. You also may not have an African lineage on that branch of the tree,
Yeah.
which to a genealogist is not earth shattering because we understand well, I'm not a genealogist, but because genealogists understand how families were
Mm.
created
Yeah.
historically. And it may go back to Europe, it may go back to Asia, it may be indigenous American or from what many call the Middle East. And so you never know what you're going to find. And
Yeah.
it can be uh, overwhelmingly positive, or it could be confusing.
Yeah, yeah. I'll jump on the confusing train. When I took my test in 2007, African ancestry was the second DNA test I had taken. I took the National Geographic Genographic Project mitochondrial DNA test, and that gave me very vague information. It gave me a haplogroup, some letters and numbers, and I was like, and pointed on the map to Africa, and I thought, well, I know that, I knew that. I want something more specific, and that's what led me to African ancestry. And I'll tell you, like, and I am a genealogist, so I am a stickler for my lineages and information and sources and confirming generation by generation. But as an African American person, I understand our challenges and brick walls and such. And but when I started, I had tunnel vision. It was just straight to Africa, Africa or bust. That's all I wanted to know. And then I took my test and I got my results. And I didn't have that expectation of, I'm going to be connected to Ghana or Nigeria. I really just didn't know what I was going to get. And my result had, I think it was the three different countries, Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau, and Liberia, and then five different groups of people. And I thought, okay, like,
What in the
what do
world?
I do with this?
Right.
Like, where do I go? I could understand it intellectually, but like, I guess emotionally and like what I wanted to connect with, it's like, I'm going to use this test to go and explore like where my maternal ancestors came from, and then it became a little bit more complicated with this. So I think it humbled me, and I remember recall like back then hearing and seeing you and Dr. Kittles like try to explain this possibility to people. And then I think that light bulb went off in my head at that time that okay, this is a little bit more complex than the one country. At least it was in my case.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of curious, like you had mentioned, like that people not maybe liking the result that they get, but also like, well, when you say the percentages of DNA, like the other companies just give you kind of like a percentage of a country instead of an actual group of people within that country. But if a person like me, like who's tested on their maternal side, and then they've had their father take a test, and his like my dad takes his own matriclan test because I don't share the same mitochondrial DNA as my dad that's coming from his mother. Um, that now my dad is like his mom's result or is Cameroon, like Takar from Cameroon. So now I'm like, okay, I got four countries. So in a sense, aren't we like if you test that frequently or have the ability to test that family member, that many family members, because my list goes on. I have a couple of cousins who share direct line ancestors with me who have taken tests as well. And I think we're at 6 countries, different countries in Africa, but with those groups of people, which is unique and is not just a blanket, okay, Nigeria or Senegal, there is a group of a Mandinka, say, oh, specifically Mandinka in Senegal. So I do appreciate that. But like, does it ever, like at that level, when you start testing like that and you become obsessive about it, like I did, like, doesn't it come back to like percentages like that we are essentially a mix of West African people and cultures? Like it would be rare for any African American person or Black American person to have just one of those groups.
And that's the beauty of who we are.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of being from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Our ancestors were captured from hundreds of ethnic groups, and they were captured from multiple present day countries that didn't even have these names
Yeah.
before the Berlin Conference. So we are an amalgamation, we are a beautiful mixture of different places, but we are
Mm-hmm.
also a beautiful mixture of different cultures, different traditional practices, beliefs. And that is why we exist as African ancestry, because it is not enough, in my opinion, to be of African descent. There are
Mm-hmm.
thousands of ethnic groups, thousands of languages with unique characteristics that have informed who you are, who each of your cousins who've taken a test is, who your dad is. And we don't have the benefit of knowing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the work that we do to get to that level of specificity, even if it is shared across different groups, gives you much more insight into who you come from, who you are, and who you can be because of the details
Mm-hmm.
that exist within groups and between groups. Now, it is absolutely confusing when you think you're gonna, you saw Chadwick Boseman shares ancestry with the Limba people living in Sierra Leone, and then you get Mende and Temini and their neighbors in Liberia. I think you were Crew, and
Yeah.
the Fulani living in Guinea-Bissau. That I get it. It is confusing, but it also means that you have a lot of cultures that you get to investigate. You have a lot of cultures that you get to explore. You perhaps can see the nomadic nature of the Fulani, or even the physical nature, the features of Fulani women that are
Hmm.
evident in your beautiful face. I was trying to think of a more scientific word, but I'm not a scientist, so I'm just going to say your beautiful face. And then, but I don't know where your mother's people from. Where are your, oh, Mississippi. You said Mississippi.
Yes, Mississippi, the Delta. Uh-huh.
But and then it could be that you have evidence of your family eating rice with every meal, which is a direct correlation to the Mende and the Temini, who were rice experts, rice farming experts, and were brought to the rice plantations of South Carolina and the Georgia Sea Islands specifically because they were able to farm rice and did not have to be trained. So there are these nuances that exist that make us who we are. And
Mhm.
that's what I encourage people to lean into. But absolutely, we are a mix. I don't think it, and yes, a mix can lead you to percentages, but knowing that you're 40% Nigerian is very different than knowing that, well, I shouldn't say it's very different. What I'll say is knowing that you're 40% Nigerian gives you a different insight than
It does.
knowing you share ancestry with the Igbo people
Hmm.
living in Nigeria today. It's just different.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Like I said, I see value in all, because I love information. So the more information, the better. And like I said, it gives you that pathway for investigation. So yeah, and I'm a traveler. I love going and learning about anybody's culture. It really doesn't even have to be my own. So it's just like, okay, well, this wasn't the one and done, but that's okay. That's cool too for me. And I haven't made it to any of the countries yet that my family has shown a connection to with African ancestry DNA tests. So that's still on my bucket list. But that being said, like let's talk about like some of those post like DNA testing opportunities that you do offer for individuals, such as the heritage travel or the African ancestry family reunion trips. Like I looked at one of those, I think in the past, specifically for the Cameroon. I think you had one for Cameroon some time ago. So is that something that still happens? Does it happen every annually, or how frequently does it occur? And for how many of the
Country.
countries that you like could get a result for do you actually have these reunions in?
Yeah. Can I add one thing before I get to that?
Sure, sure.
I just wanted to circle back because I think we talked about how we come from different, just in your family, we found different countries and
Mhm.
different ethnic groups. And the other reason that that's important is because historically we have not been taught that Africa has different countries and
Mhm.
countries have different ethnic groups. So for many of us, we're learning about these countries for the very first time. For many of us, we've never heard of these ethnic groups. And so we actually are helping people not just improve their genetic literacy by learning about different parts of their DNA, but also learning about their improving their historical
Yeah,
literacy. Um,
yeah.
we have been conditioned to believe, first of all, that our history started with enslavement, which isn't true.
Mhm.
And so that level of specificity just helps to correct the historical record that
Yeah.
we've been forced to accept.
Yeah,
But
but yeah, you're right. Before we go to that, like I'll agree with that, and I think what happens is that because when you are talking about the rice, the culture of eating rice with every meal and stuff, such, that is true for my family as well. And I think, just growing up, because we just live in our own like little bubbles, we think that, like, to me, I'm like, isn't that what all Black folks do? Like every Black folk across, who doesn't do that? I mean, like, you're telling me somebody's not doing this? So I think we grow up and we have these assumptions that, this is the story, this is the narrative. And one of the things I've learned as a genealogist is to just really not let other people's amazing stories or lack thereof to limit my ability to see what unfolds before me, like with our stories, because an African American from the South is going to have maybe some different stories, records available to them, data sets, you name it, like that. You cannot, you just have to keep a very open mind with this type
Yeah.
of research and self-discovery, I would say, and family discovery, because you just never know what's gonna unfold. But yeah, there were some assumptions made. There were some narratives that we coming up were given. Okay, Africa is just Africa and it's just slavery, and I get excited to tell people when I come across free people of color in their trees, or I can identify somebody who says they were born on the ocean or something on an 1870 census or something in a Freedmen's Bureau record that points us to where their ancestors came from prior to being here. But so yeah, I definitely agree that there of the importance and the significance in that, and like kind of being a place for people to come for additional information
It's
about.
all data. It's all data. And the more
Yeah,
data points you can get about who you are, the more freedom you have to
yeah,
to make decisions
hmm,
that are intentional, I should say.
hmm,
Um,
yeah,
but you asked about what are some of the things that I enjoy most about my African ancestry experience, and then you brought up the African ancestry family reunions, and those are yet another
yeah,
form of fun when you
hmm,
are here at African Ancestry. So in 2020, we launched these African Ancestry family reunions, which are birthright journeys home. They are, others would consider it heritage travel. We consider it birthright journeys.
okay,
And one of the things we hear regularly from people is they want to travel to Africa, but they don't know where to go, or they want to go to the place that they're from. And so we started these trips to make that possible. Our very first trip was we notice I said 2020, and so at COVID stopped that. We actually launched them at the end of 2019, and then COVID made put that a hold on everything. But in April of 2021, we traveled to Sierra Leone, where you have ancestors. And one of the cornerstone of that trip was citizenship. So
mm,
while we were there visiting the region and where the Mende are, and visiting Bunce Island, where the captured Africans were, the captured Sierra Leoneans were held prior to being put onto slave ships. Tasso Island, which is where we found the Temini community, and having a very culturally immersive trip. There was also a citizenship ceremony where the president conferred citizenship by decree to the people who traveled, because they are you, Adrian, are viewed as a DNA descendant. You are a Sierra Leonean, and you are one of the Sierra Leoneans who was stolen and taken away. And everywhere we went, people were like, welcome, 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 you're welcome. And it threw me off, because when we say you're welcome, it's often in response to the phrase, thank you.
hmm,
Say you're welcome. And it took me a minute to realize that they were saying, no, you are welcome here.
yeah,
We traveled to Cameroon. That's a really fun trip because we go to several parts. Cameroon's a big country.
hmm,
And there's some parts of Cameroon that we cannot travel to, we've decided to heed the government warnings and not travel to. But we do go to 4 or 5 other parts of Cameroon to visit the Tikar and the Bamileke and the Iwando and others. Cameroon is known as Africa in miniature, and they say that every kind of geographic um, area that's across Africa is also in Cameroon. Every kind of culture is also in Cameroon. So we go to the beach. We are in the city. We are in the grasslands. Like we really give people a wide overview of what that experience is like. In 2025, girl, the years, 2025, I think, or 20, yeah, 25, we started our Nigeria trips, which were especially meaningful to me as I share Fulani ancestry like you. Only my maternal ancestors matches are in Nigeria today, where yours are in Guinea-Bissau. And we have Ghana, and we also have Senegal. Those 2 countries you can travel anytime. So you don't have to wait for a family reunion. You can make your own trip, bring your own
Hmm.
group of people, or just travel by yourself and go to those countries. So I think that's 5 countries that we visit right now.
How long are these trips typically?
They range from Cameroon is the longest. Cameroon is 14 days because we have so much land to travel. But they range from I think 10 or 12 to 14 days.
Hmm.
And then the anytime trips, Sierra Leone anytime, Ghana anytime, Cameroon anytime. Um, those can be, you can set the time, the length
Okay.
that you'd like to have.
And so this, I was looking at the website and I didn't see, I think it said on there in the facts, like the frequently asked questions about the trips, that they're not posted. Like you'd have to have your test result or be in the circle. Like, how do you get the information on the
Yeah,
trips? Like for someone like myself who tested, a long time ago but, still has that on their bucket list, where do I
yeah.
keep up to date with that?
So, Adrienne, it's so funny. I was trying to get them up before this call because I knew you were going to ask me this question. So, by the time this podcast is aired, you will be able to go to there's a travel tab that is down right now because we are updating the trips. But there's a travel tab. And so anyone visiting our site can see the trips. We just want you, the trips are for family members. So you
Mhm.
have to have taken the test or have a family member who has taken the test to join us on a trip. But that's easy. You can just take a test. And
Okay. Okay. And then also you had mentioned now, like for the citizenship initiative, like in was it Sierra Leone, right? Is those are currently on hold, the project or the work you're doing with that. But like a lot of our clientele here at Legacy Tree Genealogists are very interested in opportunities for dual citizenship. And so and for African American people, I think it's just important. Again, even though this is not our traditional way of getting it by a document each generation, I still am very like, I think we all very much welcome this idea of DNA tested citizenship initiatives. So, like for me, I guess I was kind of confused because it's like, well, I have these 3 countries. Like, does that exclude me from one or kind of like, or is there just the one country that is offering
well,
that?
so let me clarify. With your results, what your 3 countries means is that we found people in each of those countries
Mm-hmm.
DNA match with yours.
Mm-hmm.
We could have made the decision to just give you one, but we
Yeah.
wanted you to have the full knowledge that there are people in those countries today with whom you share the same mitochondrial DNA. So it does
Mm-hmm.
not exclude you. Having Liberian matches does not exclude you from a Sierra Leonean experience. In terms of citizenship, the country stopped offering citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And so because the country stopped offering citizenship, we can't take people there to get their citizenship. Our trust
Okay.
still exists, but we cannot promise you something that doesn't exist. So we are hoping that the country will um, make whatever changes they deem necessary so that they can they can um, have the benefit of these descendants who want to return and invest in contributing to the country. Um, Ghana offers citizenship, but it's not based on DNA. Benin offers citizenship that is based on DNA, but you just have to show that you have African ancestry, is my understanding with Benin. And then there are a couple of other countries that are toying with the idea, but those are the ones that I know that have citizenship with or without DNA. And then other countries, you can go through their regular process of
Yeah.
becoming a naturalized citizen and then all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I think like if possible, it'd be nice to go to somewhere where you have that ancestral connection. Because I know I've been to Ghana and Nigeria and Kenya and Ethiopia and Tanzania, and that's about it for my travels in Africa. But like everywhere I've gone, I felt welcome. When I was in Ghana, my maiden name used to be Wilson, and everywhere I went, like they're welcome. They're welcome. You're welcome. Oh my gosh, are you from here? Is your father from here? Because Wilson is a big name on the coast. And I'm like, no, actually, this name doesn't go past my grandfather, is a fictitious man's name on my grandfather's birth certificate. And so I honestly don't have any further connection to that surname. But it was just interesting to see how, people are just will welcome you. And that was warm and that felt great, even if I don't have any Ghanaian DNA, which to date, like my results from all companies show very little Ghanaian DNA, if anything, and that includes like immediate family members as well. So Nigeria is high and a high percentage, and I could definitely see myself going there. But I think people want to go somewhere where they can say, my ancestors came from this place, and they can say that with some type of confidence. So, but yeah, I mean, I think this is awesome. I appreciate like the conversation. I hope that the initiatives come back, the citizenship based initiatives, you get able to do more of that. And I'll be looking on the website for the heritage travel dates.
Thank you, Adrienne. I appreciate having the conversation. We don't get to talk to genealogists very often. And so I appreciate the hard work. You do the hard work. So I appreciate the hard work that you do and that you have seen the benefit of incorporating African ancestry into your your family's genealogical research. It's so important. And I thank you for lifting us up in that way.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Well, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Legacy Tree podcast. If you're ready to take the next step in your own family history journey, we'd be honored to help. Put your family history in our hands and learn more about working with our team at legacytree.com.